back to another episode of the 2024 Consulate Series. I'm here at the Austrian Consulate in Melbourne. I'm here with Eva Hussain, the Honorary Consul here in Melbourne, and Eva and Maria Heikenwalder, who is a Consul Officer here. So thank you both for joining me today.
Good day to you.
Yeah.
So let's start with, tell us the role of the Consulate here in Melbourne and what your day-to-day operations really entail.
Great. I might take that one on and then hand over to Eva Maria. So essentially what we do, it's an honorary consulate, meaning that unlike many other consulates that are honorary, we also facilitate passports. I think, people come and we take their fingerprints. We carry out all kinds of consular tasks to support the Austrian community, Austrian citizens in Victoria. People come to us from Melbourne, but also from outside of the city. There are many Austrians living in rural regional areas. Eva Maria supports the community with all kinds of consular tasks. They range from, as I said, passport applications. We don't make passports here, but we take fingerprints, to things like police checks, ordering of birth certificates, certifying of documents. Anything I've missed?
No, not really. Unless young Austrians that are just born, we do help them with obtaining their first citizenships and their first passports, which is always a really lovely thing to do when we meet our newest Austrians.
One of the other things we're supposed to do, which luckily we haven't had to do much of, is support people in trouble, meaning prisons, or if someone dies, if somebody's ashes need to be transported. So we don't actually carry out these tasks here at the consulate, but we facilitate them by funneling the inquiries to the right right place, which is usually the embassy in Canberra.
Wonderful. Yeah, sounds like a lot of activities that I suppose people take for granted as well, and it's really important work.
It is important work, and our remit is also to have an outreach into the community. In Melbourne, you have two major Austrian clubs. One's in Geelong, the other one's in Heidelberg. They've been there for a long time and are run on a shoestring, typically with many people that are elderly. So these facilities were built by Austrians way back. And we do want to be out there in the community. It's very important. Eva Maria is great at connecting people. I promise you, she knows everybody and everything when it comes to Austria and Austrian people. So we try and be those connectors and, look out for the community as well.
Wonderful.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, a great segue to yourself, Eva Maria. Tell us about some of the opportunities between Australia and Austria when it comes to some trade.
Absolutely. So we've got lots of Austrian businesses here in Australia, specifically in Melbourne, Victoria, and they range from, all the industries, from food over jewelry, over agriculture, and some of the heavier technologies, train, road building, etc. So the whole range of industries is present here in Australia.
And before starting the interview, we'll talk about some of the cultural nuances. Tell us about that.
Yes. So Austrians do have a reputation of being quite direct and maybe
and
a little bit...
we love it, right?
We love it, yes. There's not a lot of fakeness going on amongst Austrians, but that can be perceived by Australians as blunt, that directness. We're also very formal society, so we like to address people by their formal titles, be it a doctor or magister, which is like a bachelor's degree. And we typically don't approach people or talk to people with their first name until we know them better. And there is instances where you work with people for 20 plus years and you still address them with their last name. And lastly, a nice quirk of the Austrian culture is that in business, a handshake actually counts and can still hold in court as a contract if you have shook hands on a business deal.
Right. Well, that's important stuff for people to know, especially, I think the cultural awareness, the business opportunities. One of the things that, as you said, you work quite closely, not just with the Austrian community, but the whole range of European other chambers and organisations. Tell us about what might be in store for the Austrian opportunities here going forward in 2024 in Melbourne.
So there's obviously a lot of different networking events. Our Austrian restaurant, the Gasthaus on Queen, he tends to put on one networking event for the Austrian, German, French, etc. business communities per quarter. There's also European business with which I'm heavily involved, and we put on events a couple of times a year. And then there's all the other industry, Chamber of Commerce. I'm pretty sure our Austrian Trade Commissioner will put on an event later on this year again. So it is quite an active and busy business community here.
I have to add here that Austrians and Austrian business definitely punch above their weight in terms of export and import, everything from technology and, as Eva and Maria mentioned, to food. There's about 80 Austrian companies in Australia that are very successful. They kind of blended into the background, like, you know, Austrians don't necessarily stand out maybe like other communities, but it's also a sign of innovation and being really across what's happening in the export-import business space. And I think the other thing I wanted to add to that is that in terms of events, Austrians always turn up. Like it's so good to work with people and to know the business community from that point of view. They you know, will support each other, maybe not so openly, but there's like a really strong network of Austrian businesses, of Austrian community that you know, contribute to the well-being of Australia, to the well-being of the business relationship between the two countries. We do not have a formal Chamber of Commerce. Austria is a small country, like if you think about it, and you know, unlike Italy or Germany, where there's, you know, millions of people and they have money and infrastructure to support like a formal Chamber of Commerce. Things within the Austrian community, in my experience, happen a little bit less formally, but not to say that they're not effective. I think, you know, we often host business delegations from Austria that they come, you know, a couple of times a year, not that often. But, you know, so much pride in their achievements. And, you know, I don't know if you know this, but when you drive into shopping centres and your number plate is scanned before you go in and out, that's Austrian technology. Roads, infrastructure, like they everywhere, okay? So, but maybe not so prominently. And I think when it comes to business culture, that is the way that Austrians like to do it.
Yeah, hidden champions.
Not in your face, but still amazing innovation, amazing achievements.
Yeah, we do value the understatement. We're not boisterous like other countries. Yeah.
Right. So, as a final wrap-up question, I've been asking all the consuls on this series, and I'll start with you, Eva, because you know you're ideally placed. Your role with Bolaron as a translation specialist and multicultural specialist, you know, you're perfectly placed, probably more so than many of the other consuls, to see the context and differences between markets. How do you pitch and sell Austria to Australian viewers?
Look, great question. I wanted to say that, you know, many consuls wear many hats. So one of the hats I wear is running a translation company, but I'm not Austrian. Eva Maria here is. I like to think of myself as being adopted Austrian. I'm working on the language and all that sort of stuff. But it's such a privilege to represent the country, and I think it's one of the best countries to do business in, actually. And as you said, I've dealt with different cultures, different languages, different countries, different contexts. Because the culture is so direct and they're so open, you know, there's like an initial, I don't know if you agree, initial kind of, not suspicion, but like, because it's a formal culture, as Eva and Maria said earlier, but once they get to know you, there's friendship, there's business, there's like an amazing space of collaborating, which I really appreciate. So again, anyone thinking of doing business in Austria with Austrians, go for it.
Right. And apart from the business, some of the amazing parts of Austria as well.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I'm biased, I have to say. I think it's one of the most beautiful countries in the world. We've got the most pristine lakes and mountains, and all of those lakes have drinking water quality, so they're super clean and safe to swim in. And then just tourism in general, you know, you have everything from beautiful old ancient historic cities to the mountains, to beautiful agricultural land. So you've got the whole variety in Austria. The only thing we don't have is an ocean. We're a landlocked country.
And the arts and culture's phenomenal too.
Absolutely. And I was going to give a plug to history, because the country's got such a rich and amazing history of arts and science and everything in between. And I think, my role at the Consulate is also such a privilege because it's an homage to what Austria did. I come originally from Poland, in case anyone's wondering. So in 1980s, when Poland was still communist, we were hosted by Austrians. So my brother, my mother, and other members of my family were refugees in Austria. So that's like an eternal gratitude that I extend to the country and to the people. And yeah, great privilege and an amazing place. I strongly encourage people to look into it if they haven't been.
Right. Well,
Fully agree.
thank you both. I think that sort of heartfelt connection for both of you is really resounding, and I'm sure will come across the camera to all the viewers as well. So thank you both for taking the time to speak with me today on the Consulate Series, and I'm sure I'll speak to you again both very soon.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.